just give us more options to strike wrestlers on the ground. Just give me more ways to hurt wrestlers. Quit any rule that is in place to protect people who are on the ground. Get rid of them.
Welcome to the UCF podcast. My name is Clark, and I'm here with my co host, Francis. And this
Whoa.
is the rightest and wrongest men on planet Earth edition. Francis, what happened in this main event? Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad went at it.
Yeah, so Sunday, we're on the heels of UFC 304, Edwards versus Muhammad 2. Our main event was Leon Rocky Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. We're all going to have to remember the name now. This fight,
You sound very sad when you said that.
yeah, so this fight, a lot of things happen in this fight. And the number one thing that we have to just say right off the top is that we got this one wrong. Pretty much everyone got this one wrong. And the entire mixed martial arts community, the whole fan base, to some extent, owes Belal Muhammad a genuine apology because Belal told us all ahead of time exactly what he was going to do, and he did it for 5 rounds. He maybe lost one round to Leon Edwards, and that would be round number 3. So much that happened in this fight was the opposite of what we expected. Now, number one, at range, Leon Edwards could not get a single thing going. He did not have the power to keep Belal Muhammad off of him, which we thought he would. Belal ate a couple of solid strikes in round number 1, even like a clean uppercut that turned Bilal's head, and then he missed the punch he was throwing. But none of it was enough to deter Belal, and it's honestly so disappointing to see Leon Edwards lose mostly to 2 techniques, which is a jab, and Bilal's jab was sharp, fast, and constant. If we look at these stats here, total strikes for Belal Muhammad, he's hitting 192 of 281. His significant strikes are 68 landed. The vast majority of that is either on the ground or jabs at distance. And that constant pressure from Belal, because he never got off of Leon for all 25 minutes, constant pressure and constant jabbing. And then anytime Leon Edwards stopped or got trapped up against the fence, Belal was disdainful of anything Leon was throwing back. He refused to even acknowledge the punches or kicks coming back, except for, those few head kicks that Leon threw that Belal just blocked and kept on fighting. And, he would get him squared up against the fence, and then he would start to throw that rear hand as well a little bit. And as soon as he had Leon flustered and throwing his hands up, bam, double leg takedown. And he got some really serious slam takedowns as well, throwing Leon all the way up in the air. And I believe it was in round number 2 as well, spiked Leon directly on his head. The only success Leon Edwards had in this entire fight was in round number 3, and at the end of round number 2, grappling Belal Muhammad and taking his back. This fight was the exact opposite of what we expected in a lot of ways. Leon Edwards' only success was on the ground grappling. Belal Muhammad outclassed him on the feet for 25 minutes. I mean, really all that I'm saying is that Belal Muhammad showed up. He was absolutely incensed. His confidence was unbreakable. And, I think
The light of Allah, man.
his corner was telling him he looked like Canelo Alvarez on the feet. No, he didn't. But
Gotta hype your man up when he's in that corner.
yeah, no, absolutely. It was just impressive, man. It was just impressive.
I was shocked with how bad Edwards looked. I don't know. He wasn't like horrible necessarily, but it really seemed like amateur hour over there. Maybe he was coming down with a fever or something. He looked almost afraid a little bit to engage. He was putting a lot of like high blocks up just repeatedly. He couldn't deal with the pressure. Struggled a lot on the ground, which I wasn't expecting him to just be like kind of just held and controlled in the ground for such a huge amount of time. And I mean, obviously this is because Muhammad had prepared quite well and was ready to go and was looking great. But I really thought this would be a little bit of a closer fight. I was thinking maybe a split decision after round 1. And then after round 2, I was like, uh-oh, now he's beginning to run away with it a little bit. And then he just kind of ran away with it. Round 3, yeah, I think obviously goes to Edwards, but not even by like a huge margin, just by like enough of a margin that it's difficult to argue otherwise. To lose 4 out of 5 rounds as the champion in these circumstances. I think we're all a little shocked. I will remember your name, Belal Muhammad. Good job.
Yeah, and just because I did end up rewatching these fights this morning, I do want to make mention of something because the impression I got last night was that Leon Edwards just was not showing up, was not uh, like he didn't have like he had an effort issue, like he wasn't trying hard enough.
He was
This
tired. Like I know
well,
wrestling tires you out, but it just seems so early that he was just, like what, like no conditioning was going on there. I don't know. What do you think about that?
okay. Well, what I wanted to mention was that I think Leon Edwards is very susceptible to being discouraged. And that's why his corner man, he has that iconic corner work in between rounds 4 and 5 in his first title fight against Usman, where he hypes Leon Edwards up. Leon Edwards had lost 4 rounds of that fight, and then he comes back with that famous head kick knockout. The difference here is that Leon was just not going to be able to put Bilal away, and he needed to be able to dig deep and fight Leon or fight Bilal everywhere, everywhere in every moment. He had to be ready to do that. And if you go back and rewatch round 1, I think Leon Edwards lands the harder shots. And it doesn't discourage Bilal, and Leon doesn't know what to do then. He's not getting his moments to reset. He's not getting his breaks. And without those, he's just not the same fighter.
It probably was the pressure in the end that really took him down.
Yep, absolutely. Very impressive performance by Belal Muhammad. Leon Edwards said in his post-fight interview that he'd love to get one more fight in this year. Really interested to see what's going to happen here now in our welterweight division. Will Shavkat come back to fight Belal Muhammad? We just don't know what's going to happen yet, but I'm excited to see what's next.
I'm excited to talk about the co-main event.
Not especially, but we're gonna. Tom Aspinall knocks out Curtis Razor Blades in the very first round, getting a performance of the night bonus. I do have a couple of things to say about this one, and they're not good for Curtis Blades. The first thing that I have to say, the very first thing that I have to say is that in the predictions, right, I predicted Curtis Blades to beat Tom Aspinall. And one of the things that I said is that Curtis Blades has really strong, straight punches, and that I think he's going to be able to catch Tom. This fight lasted, I think, exactly 1 minute. Yep. Exactly 1 minute. Curtis Blades did actually catch Tom. If you look at these striking numbers, wow, 5 of 11 strikes. Not great, didn't last long. Curtis checked Tom's chin twice. Within that 1 minute, he did check his chin twice, and he did not hurt Tom. He didn't hurt him. So Tom's chin looking very good. And the second thing is that Tom Aspinall is just at a different speed than most heavyweights, maybe any other heavyweight in this whole division. But he also looks faster than most light heavyweights. And man, I'm gonna be trying to do a side by side maybe at some point late in the future here, like how fast is Tom Aspinall actually? But one thing, just because Tom ran right through him, and this is like the story of Tom Aspinall's whole heavyweight career, is wow, I'd love to see him do more, but we just haven't found an opponent who can last more than a round with him.
I'd love to see round 2 of Tom Aspinall.
Right? So does he get tired? Does he, how does he look after having to defend some takedowns? How does he,
right. Like
questions we just don't have answers to.
No one's hurt him. No one's seeing his second phase yet, right? Like no one knows what happens to him when he gets hurt or tired or anything because he just wins so quickly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. During the night, right after it happened, I think I messaged you maybe an early stoppage.
Yeah, I knew we had to talk about that. I mean, some people.
No. I just want to axe this cope because I brought it up last night.
Okay.
I saw some people I saw some people bringing it up as well online, and watching it back this morning. Curtis was not getting out from underneath Tom Aspinall, laid flat on his fucking stomach. Okay, the fight was over 100%. No coping on that end. Curtis Blades has fought everyone in this heavyweight division. Very disappointing that he's just not championship caliber. But man, Tom Aspinall just looking like a level above. Everyone in this division did the right thing, very respectfully called out John Jones. I hope they cancel his fight against old man Stipe, and I hope they book a fight against Tom Aspinall, you know?
Wouldn't that be wonderful? I would love to see that. Dana's not going to do it,
Absolutely.
but
No, probably not. But a man can dream. Uh, Going a little bit further down the card, we had Paddy the Baddy Pimblett versus Bobby Green. Not going to call him King Green after that performance. Um, Honestly, just a confusing fight for as long as it lasted. Paddy Pimblett was not biting on a single feint that Bobby Green was throwing. And if you look at these numbers, most of what Paddy threw were leg kicks. Didn't have to throw a whole big bunch either, because this fight was over in less than a round, because Bobby Green had the bright idea that he was going to time and try to catch a leg kick and shoot a takedown, which is exactly what he did. And immediately dived into a guillotine that when Pimblett realized that he did not have that guillotine, he immediately transitioned into a triangle choke, went to the arm bar after that, and by the time he was going for the arm bar, Bobby Green was already unconscious. You know,
put the close up.
coming
Put the close up of Bobby's face.
I'm absolutely going to include Bobby Green's limp body as he
It's like
recovers.
deceased.
Yeah, it looks genuinely dead.
All right, whatever,
Uh,
dude. It's fine. Good job,
Good.
Patty. It's looking pretty good. This was a good night for advertisers because fights just kept ending in round one for a little bit there. But really impressive, honestly. And he's kind of annoying. I think people that don't like him think he's annoying, and I kind of do like him, and I still think he's sort of annoying outside the octagon. But after this one, he was pretty classy. Gave props to Green and called out a young child that had died of cancer. Can't hate a guy for that, no matter how annoying he is in other situations. Honestly, man, this guy's looking pretty good. We're probably going to see a lot more of him. I would love to know who's going to be the real. Like this was serious, right? He's got a number next to his name now. We don't know what it is quite yet, but he's going to have one. But I'd really like to see who he's going to go up against next. Who did he call out again? I forget. You remember?
He called out Renato Moicano, which is the perfect call out in the lightweight division. Moicano, with his incensed schizophrenic post-fight interviews, that is a fight that I think sells very, very well. I hope they book it. Moicano, I think, might actually be booked already for another fight, but yeah, that would be a great one. Paddy the Baddy, looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And Bobby Green, dude, you're 37. That sort of fight IQ, shooting a takedown against a grappler like Paddy Pimblett, not looking good anymore.
Yeah, sorry, man. The name
Before
change
that,
did not save you.
Before that, finally a pick I got right. Thank God. Finally, one of my underdogs delivered. Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez, ahead of this fight, was saying that he wants to work towards the title, that is his goal in this UFC middleweight division. And he looked like he has a shot last night. He won by unanimous decision. All three judges saw him get in all 3 rounds. There was barely a moment of this fight that he was not winning. Christian Leroy Duncan was supposed to be the stronger striker on the feet. He was coming in with almost 5 inches of reach advantage while being shorter by 1 inch. None of that mattered for even a moment. Rodriguez applied brutal pressure throughout most of this fight. Really heavy boxing combinations, a lot of really nasty hooks and uppercuts. And it really had Leroy Duncan shooting for takedowns and trying to grab a clinch position just to get away from the punches. And then Gregory Rodriguez is a multiple-time jiu-jitsu world champion. So as soon as it turned to the grappling, he had a pretty comfortable win under his belt. Nobody running away with the striking numbers by too much in this one. But if you saw the hematomas and the welts on Christian Leroy Duncan's head by the end of this one, there was blood all over the place.
There was a lot of blood. This is a bloody fight.
Yeah. Honestly, like pretty fun to watch as well. There were moments where it slowed down just because, Leroy Duncan was trying to get away from getting finished. And that's what would have happened if they'd stayed on the feet for all 3 rounds. Really great win for RoboCop. He wants a ranked opponent next at middleweight. I'd love to see him get one. He's only really had one setback, one serious setback in the UFC middleweight division thus far. So I'm really interested to see what he does next.
Yeah, this was really a great fight for RoboCop. Christian Leroy Duncan, I thought would do a little bit better, but he just, I don't know, it felt pretty quickly after a pretty solid round one that he just sort of fell apart a little bit, and Rodriguez just kind of ran away with it. And yeah, it's shocking to be like, I understand why he's taking him down, he's avoiding the punches, but holy shit, man, this is a champion on the ground, you know what I mean? You're risking a
Yeah,
lot getting down there. And to be fair, he survives. Duncan is, I think, pretty young still. He's got some time left in his career, so he might, turn it around, and this will be a learning experience, and that's great and that's wonderful. But did not show up how I thought he might show up last night. But I still picked Rodriguez, so it's fine. I don't care. I win. I win. I always win, Francis.
absolutely. Uh, except sometimes. Moving down the card, Arnold Almighty Allen versus Giga Chikadze. This might have been my favorite fight of the whole evening. 3 rounds of action, pretty much nonstop, and a really intelligent performance from Arnold Allen. Running down here to the numbers, you can see that they're pretty close through rounds 1 and 2, really starting to run away with it in round number 3. But round number 1, Arnold Allen is circling away from the power kick of Giga Chikadze. But because he's constantly circling away from that power side, he was having a little bit of trouble actually getting to Giga. And going into rounds 2 and 3, Arnold made a couple of adjustments that really helped him out. He was still catching Giga Chikadze with the harder punches throughout round 1, circling away from that power. But what he started to do was use kind of like a hopping Muay Thai, lifting the lead leg sort of step to close that distance safely, being able to protect his front leg from the low kick and still being able to protect himself mostly from a body or high kick. Giga then mostly was relying on his jab on the back foot to try to pepper Allen to keep him off of him, but it just wasn't enough. And Arnold Allen started to use some beautiful cage cutting to really set up these heavy boxing combinations that just beat the shit out of Giga Chikadze. Really built off of his momentum that he got going there in round 2. Really impressive performance. And another thing that just has to be mentioned is the defense of Arnold Allen in this fight. Wasn't always getting his head off the center line, was leaving himself a little vulnerable at times, but his hands were never far from his head, blocking any of those high kicks or heavy shots that Giga was throwing. When someone as sharp as Giga Chikadze is landing at a 34% clip of his significant strikes, just very impressive defensive performance. And when he landed, obviously had the power advantage. Just an awesome performance from Arnold Allen.
Looking really good. I was really happy to see some of that defense. I was a little worried about those kicks and stuff, but he dealt with them very well. Solid win for Allen. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on down. This was our feature prelim, and I got most of my picks wrong on this card. I think I mentioned this at the start. I'll say it again. This was not one of them, but I was
Thank
worried.
God. I was a little
I
worried.
was, I was worried all throughout this fight because Nathaniel Wood just kept hurting Daniel Pineda on the feet and then following him to the ground for no good reason. I didn't catch him between rounds whether or not his corner told him to stop doing that, but every single time they hit the mat, he was just giving Daniel Pineda a chance. Round number 1, one of the very first things that happens is Nathaniel Wood very clearly hurts Daniel Pineda to the body. Just a snappy front kick right to the solar plexus, folds him right in half, catches him with a straight punch on his way down as well. If he had just stood back to his feet and forced Daniel Pineda to stand up with him and kicked him to the body a few more times, probably a round 1 finish. But nope, followed him to the ground. Like just
Perplexing.
continuously pursuing the ground game when he has such a disadvantage, risking getting finished on the bottom in round 3, taking ground and pound at like the very end of the fight for no good reason. Just not impressive fight IQ from Nathaniel Wood, but on the feet, looking very sharp, very snappy. I would say Daniel Pineda had the power advantage, and it didn't matter. Nathaniel Wood was still way more dangerous on the feet. Just strange decision making
It's
once he
just
got to the
so
finish.
weird because this isn't like a guy. Wasn't his UFC debut or anything, right? This guy's 21-6 professionally. He's 31. He's fought a lot, but he just doesn't have it. How many times have we seen in the past few weeks, past few months, some striker follows a guy to the ground and then gets submitted, right? Just gets like eaten up, and he just rolls that dice repeatedly. And every time I'm watching it with like my fucking fist to my mouth, like, come on, dude. How stupid are we gonna look picking the easiest pick of the night? This is, I think, the biggest spread for odds the entire night, and he's just desperate to grasp defeat out of the jaws of victory. He did look really good on the feet, and I was happy to see that. But holy shit, man, take it easy. You know what I mean? You don't have to go down there. When they go down there, you don't have to go down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like just again to speak to how sharp Nathaniel Wood actually looked on the feet, hitting 70% of his significant strikes and going to be like just under 80% of his
Right?
total strikes
Like,
as
could you
well.
imagine if he'd just like been submitted in round 3 or something after that performance? I don't know. It scares me. It hurts me to think about.
Yeah, but nice win for Nathaniel Wood. Glad he got the win. Glad my picks weren't all wrong. But work on that fight IQ, that situational awareness. Before that, didn't get this one right.
We don't even like
Molly
women, so that's fine.
McCann versus Bruna Brazil.
Okay.
From the second this fight started, I just knew something was wrong. Bruna Brazil looked very confident, and in round number one, she could not miss with these intercepting knees. It is it's so difficult to be the shorter fighter and the striker in a matchup. Molly McCann gets her wins by powerful boxing combinations. That's how she does it. And she landed a few of them in this fight, but for the most part, she was coming in, advancing, and getting punished brutally. She was almost finished by knees and body kicks in round number one. She was able to rally a little bit in round number three and make it a little bit closer. Round number two was close as well. But Bruna Brazil had an answer for almost everything Molly McCann did. And up until round number three, she really just was doing everything right. I will say though that her composure is not bulletproof. By round number three, Bruna Brazil didn't have that sort of unshakable confidence. You know, to contrast with our new welterweight champion, Belal Muhammad, nothing his opponent threw surprised him. None of those positions that he ended up in discouraged him. But Bruna Brazil in round number three, it really only took like one serious boxing combination from Molly McCann for Bruna to not look so comfortable anymore. That all having been said, round number one, she looked next to perfect. This is a really nice win. She silenced the UK crowd. Meatball Molly looking super limited. I hate to see it because she's such a fun fighter. She's one of the few really exciting fighters in WMMA, and the only half of the reason that Bruna Brazil gets to look good off of this performance is because Molly McCann actually goes forward. Really sucks to see her getting punished for it, but a really smart performance from Bruna Brazil.
Yeah. This one was a little upsetting. I was really hoping for a better performance out of McCann, and I didn't think Brazil would look as good as she ended up looking. You're right, in round one, was looking just like a fucking dime in there. Like she could do no wrong. And by the end of it, yeah, she was definitely on the back foot a lot more. But good round ones like that can set the stage for an entire fight. So nothing wrong with that. She gets the win. We don't even like women anymore. It's fine. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, that's how you know it's been a tough card. Moving a little bit further down. Jake Hadley with like I was so certain as they were announcing these fighters, as I'm reminded by how silly Jake Hadley's fight name is, the White Kong. I'm like, there's no way he wins. Usually being a white dude and drawing attention to that is not a great base for MMA. Usually not a good sign. But Kolan Logren was just, I don't know, man. In round number one, he was stiff as a board. The commentary team was mentioning that he did not look comfortable at all. From the first punch Jake Hadley threw, Kolan Logren was just stunned, standing there, couldn't land any punches, couldn't get the grappling going. It wasn't a runaway by any means, but Jake Hadley very comfortably won this fight. Not very exciting, but he gets it on all three of the judges' scorecards and very clearly as well. Um, just a nice performance from Jake Hadley.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was good. I mean, Logran, we talked in the prediction video. It seemed like there was a strength differential. Logran just really didn't use it. You need to throw punches for that strength differential to mean anything, and you need to land punches. And his accuracy is not great, and he throws less strikes. I don't know. Maybe he really did just get clocked really good or something, and just couldn't get back into it. Was a little surprised to see that, but I've been a little surprised for a lot of fights on this card. So I guess what are you gonna do?
yeah, absolutely. Going further down, this is a fight
Oh baby,
that
we got drama.
yeah,
Drama?
we got drama. Um, there's just so much to say about this fight. The first thing that I think you have to mention is the pre-fight drama. So these guys ran into each other and had a scuffle in the hotel. Manel Cap claimed that Muhammad Mokaev came up to him, put his arm around his shoulder, and then sucker punched him and attacked him with his whole team. Um, at the weigh-ins, security had to pull these guys apart. In the cage before the fight, they were trying to fight each other again.
Yeah. And in the interest
And
of fairness, I do want to say that Mokaev alleges that Cap headbutted him once without warning, like shortly after their fight was announced, and that's why he sucker punched him. Because Mokaev, I believe, did just expressly admit to sucker punching him, but he was like, "Oh, he headbutted me or something, and he was bullying me, and I couldn't let that be unresponded." I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying that's what he's claimed.
yep, no, absolutely. Both of these guys going back and forth like they are rival gang leaders and that they have to kill each other in the octagon. And as soon as the referee said go, they forgot all of that pre-fight shit and went back to being boring flyweights. Um, Manel Cap broke his toe in this fight and set it back into place. The commentary team were vigilant watching Manel Cap's toe throughout this fight as it kind of like bent upwards and he just wasn't able to put any because it was his big toe
Yeah, toe watch was on tonight.
to watch. And you know, he's gingerly switching stances. And throughout all of that, the Punisher, Muhammad Mokaev, can't do anything, landing 20 significant strikes, 41% of his output of his significant strikes. Or no, sorry. He's landing 36% of his significant strikes. Sorry, I mixed them up there for a second. 30 of 82. And then total 47 of 102 on an opponent with a broken toe. And you're the wrestler. He's getting 3 of 8 takedowns on an opponent who can't push off with one of his feet. This was a very frustrating performance to watch. Muhammad Mokaev gets the win, still undefeated, and rumor has it, he has been cut from the
He's out of
UFC.
here, baby. Dana White was saying that what he says is like the PFL or whatever the hell they're called is going to get an excellent undefeated fighter or something like that. He's apparently done with him. Allegedly, people in the UFC, the matchmakers and stuff, do not like this guy. He's difficult to work with. He's difficult to deal with. There's also allegedly he was told by someone at the UFC to change his fighting style because it was boring, and then he went and publicly said that he had been told that. A lot of people think that that really pissed off some of the higher ups at the UFC. Dana White, when he talks about this, he does explicitly say, he's like, "Oh, that's what we do. We tell people to fight," sarcastically. So it seems like that might have been the catalyst that really got him done. Maybe it was all this plus this fight kind of just being a piece of shit. Who's to say? But it is a little shocking to see an undefeated guy get cut from the UFC. But yeah, that's the drama going on. That's fun. We got a little bit of drama. More exciting than the fight itself, so we have to talk about
Well,
it.
okay, I do have to mention one more thing because I two more things actually. The first thing is that we do have precedents for fighters who are winning fights and doing well being cut from the UFC for really shitty behavior. Guys who have held on to submissions like leg locks long after the referee has said stop have been cut. Guys who throw sucker punches after the bell has rung have been cut before. What did Muhammad Mokaev do that was so bad in this fight to get cut? If you actually are pulling your opponent's shorts so badly that you're exposing his bare ass to a full stadium of fighters, yeah, honestly, if you're just a crotch sniffing wrestler on top of that and you're also willing to cheat that hard for a takedown, I'm more than okay with him getting cut. Full stop. I'm just good on that end, okay? And that was the second thing is that Muhammad Mokaev pulled down Manel Cap's shorts so much while trying to wrestle with him that his bare ass was exposed to the stadium. Yeah, cut him, dude. I'm fucking good with it. Manel Cap didn't look good in any way. He is almost, just by how bad Muhammad Mokayev's win was, is getting exempt from a lot of this stink. He didn't look good. He didn't bring any of that intensity from the pre-fight buildup either. But at the very least, he wasn't cheating to the point where he's pulling down his opponent's shorts. So very frustrating fight for all parties involved. Sucked to watch. Frankly, I hope Muhammad Mokayev loses to some steroid abusing dude on the regional scene, and I hope Manel Cap gets knocked out. But anyways, moving on
Kind
down.
of hateful thing to say.
A little bit. Maybe the salt of getting all
I
these
hope that these
fights.
children get eaten by alligators. And
No, I wouldn't go that
I
far.
hope his wife gets a sunburn.
I don't know if he's married, actually.
Oh, okay.
Moving on to the next fight.
He's single.
Oban Elliott versus Preston Parsons. This was a pretty slow fight. Very measured performance by Oban Elliott, the Welsh gangster, coming out with an impressive win, getting pretty much every moment of this fight. Preston Parsons gave a good account of himself, worked very hard, but he just could not secure the takedowns. The takedown defense of Oban Elliott was astounding. He's defending 8 of 9 takedowns and getting 1 of 2 shots on his own. The defense on the part of both of these guys was really good, but part of that was just because neither one was really willing to commit to an engagement where he did not have the advantage. That makes for a very slow paced, kind of little bit of a boring fight. That having been said, Oban Elliott landing all of the better shots, his boxing looking pretty crisp, but also just a little bit limited because he's not using any of the kicks and didn't really implement too much grappling either. It was really straight punches at range that he was landing. It was enough to get this win, but I would like to see a little bit more from him in the future.
Yeah, this really was a defensive fight in a lot of ways. I honestly thought it was going to be like a split decision for Parsons, so I was kind of pleasantly surprised when Elliott got it. But yeah, very measured. I mean, these are two guys who I think are pretty intelligent in the octagon, neither being very reckless, which is fine. And I mean, it worked out very well for Elliott in this situation, but it wasn't a super exciting fight as a result. But at the same time, not the most boring either. Takedown defense, really the story of the fight. I mean, getting 1 out of 9 is that's pretty good for Elliott defending that many.
Absolutely. And moving on down, this fight had me so excited for this whole card, and then we ran into a little period of stinker fights. But Modestas Bukauskas and Marcin Prachnio, the fact that these guys didn't get any performance bonus for this fight is completely unfair, and it shows that Dana White was still doing lines of cocaine at this portion of the evening. Because these guys put on an absolute slobber nogger. From start to finish, Marcin Prachnio was throwing every punch and every kick with fight-ending intensity. And Modestas Bukauskas was intelligently defending himself for a lot of it and implementing really crisp boxing combinations to counter Marcin Prachnio. And finally, in round number 3, is able to secure that arm triangle, which I think actually came from Marcin Prachnio pushing forward for a takedown and getting reversed by a trip. Round number 2, Modestas Bukauskas had Prachnio hurt, backed him up against the fence, and instead of Prachnio retaliating with, a wild punch, this is the first instance of me seeing what would be like a breaking from clinch kick that's very popular and common in like combat karate or taekwondo, and he hurt Modestas with it. That's actually how he kept him off him from getting knocked out, was with a just snappy, quick high kick. It was such a fun back and forth fight. Not the highest skill level by any means, but like at the start of round 3, Marcin Prachnio marching forward, throwing just with actual intent to knock out Modestas. If he had stayed on the feet, he might have done it. But props to Modestas for being able to keep his composure through these sorts of hectic and alarming exchanges and getting that submission win. very nice win for him. And honestly, just a fun fight as long as it lasted.
Yeah. I was so worried for Bukowskis the entire fight. He's so knockoutable, and he was just, there were so many punches coming that I'm like, any of these could really just realistically end it. He's going to get tagged one time, and that's going to be it. But he was playing defensively. He was playing intelligently. I mean, to be honest with you, he was losing this fight, right? Like, if this went to the judges, he was going to lose. And he just refuses to let it happen and eats up the striker and does a good little sub attempt. That's all you need. Clean him up. Was really happy to see that. I mean, it was really his only way out at that point, and he managed to get it. Good job, Bukowskis. Looking pretty good. I mean, whatever. Neither of these guys are that good in general, but sometimes that leads to some pretty solid fighting.
Absolutely. Nice win for the Baltic Gladiator. Moving on down, Sam Patterson versus Kiefer Crosby. This one did actually go exactly like we both predicted, which is nice. It was nice to get a couple of them right on this one. Sam Patterson was just way too big, way too long, and way too tall for Kiefer Crosby. And as soon as he got that takedown, it was over. He worked on the arm triangle. He's so long. His arms are so long that he started the choke before he had even fully stepped over for the arm triangle. And once he did, it was done. Crosby was tapping. And fair enough, right? Like, what are you supposed to do? You're fighting a guy who is almost a full foot taller than you and arms that are equally that much longer. It's just a tough bill, and Kiefer Crosby was supposed to lose. So nice win for Sam Patterson. Gets that win in front of the English crowd.
Yeah.
But also exactly as was expected.
I think anyone could have read this one like a book. Really not that much to say. Good job, Sam Patterson, but this was pretty clearly hype up the crowd because you're going to be here until like 6 in the fucking morning. So we might as well get you guys up and making some noise early. Good job, Patterson.
Yep, hell yeah. Before that, this was another fight. Like, early on in the card, all these early Fight Pass prelims, they kind of rocked. So early in the afternoon, or I should say late in the afternoon, early in the evening, really getting excited for some of these fights. Mick Parkin knocking out Lukasz Brzeski. Mick Parkin was getting hit a lot. Really was worrying kind of that he was letting himself get teed off on early, and then just landed the big haymaker that he needed to put Brzeski away. Round 1 KO. That's all there really is to say about this one. Mick Parkin being a sparring partner of the champion Tom Aspinall. That is most of what you're probably going to hear about him. I don't expect him to do big things in the heavyweight division, but
what else are you supposed to do? You're supposed to do small things? It's the heavyweight division, man.
Yeah, well,
thanks for laughing.
He's
undefeated. I mean, I don't know. This was a good one. I mean, pretty simple KO in a lot of ways. And again, this was kind of a let the English guy beat the Polish dude and hype the crowd up a little bit situation. But this guy hasn't been beaten yet at the UFC. He's usually winning by decision, so I'm glad that he managed to get a heme. Yeah, I don't know. He was all right. He was good. You punched him. I liked it.
And that's what matters.
It's all about me, really.
Going to the very first fight of the evening.
Oh, we got a robbery right at the end. That's interesting. Or the beginning.
Yeah. Alice Ardeline versus Shauna Bannon. I was a little late to getting onto the fights, so I missed part of this one. Some people are mad that Shauna Bannon got the win. It was a split decision. But if you look at those striking numbers, it was mostly Bannon. There was some grappling going on, 2 takedowns for Alice Ardeline, but didn't do much with it. 5 minutes of control time out of a 15-minute fight where your opponent is doubling your output. I'm not really all that mad that Shauna gets the win. Wasn't a very impressive performance going either way, but
that's why they were the first fight, because they kind of suck.
Because they knew I was going to be a little late getting back to the house.
Exactly. So. They're like, well, Francis isn't going to want to watch this shit anyways. So,
but yeah, this has been top to bottom UFC 304. The big takeaways, if you've made it this far in the podcast, congratulations.
Welcome. We're going to tell you which god is the right one.
It's probably Odin, but well, I mean, not according to Belal Muhammad
now. Yeah, I was just saying it's obviously Allah, because I mean,
But yeah, Belal Muhammad shocking the world, proving pretty much everybody wrong. What's next for Belal Muhammad? It could be Shavkat Rakhmonov. It could be Jack Della Maddalena. Welterweight looking wide open right now. Leon Edwards is, I would guess, going to get matched up against one of those guys in a title eliminator type situation. Welterweight is looking interesting again. Heavyweight is as interesting as it has been in the last 10 years. Could Tom Aspinall knock out John Jones? That would be the most exciting fight of the decade. Paddy Pimblett also was there. So
For
yeah,
him,
a fun night of fights. Honestly, lots of great ones on there. I got most of them wrong, and I
I
don't
got
mind
most of
all.
them right.
Yeah, I'll put up. Here's the scoreboard. If you stayed this long,
That's
wow,
weird.
look how good Clark did.
Yeah,
Francis,
I don't
no,
do this good very often, so I'm like smug about it. Don't expect this to continue happening.
yep. No, honestly, sometimes, man, sometimes not overthinking it and just going with the obvious choice is the correct thing to do. In the main event, that was not the case. In the co-main event, absolutely it was. But yeah, an awesome evening of fights, and we'll catch you a little bit later in the week with our predictions for the next fight card. We'll see you then.